Happy Recovery Month, sweet friends. For the month of September, I am partnering with Recover Alaska to bring you recovery stories, resources, and hope. The journey of recovery looks different for each one of us, so I will be sharing interviews that highlight a variety of ways that one person can recover. My wish is for these to bring you relief and hope as you learn that you are not alone and we can recover. This week's Recovery Series episode features Derek and Britney, the co-owners of Choose Recovery. They are on a mission to spread the hope of freedom from addiction. Their recovery-themed apparel company spreads awareness and gives back to recovery efforts. Today's episode does contain mature content, so please do not play this with children in the room. All right, let's dive into today's episode. All right. Welcome, everyone, and happy Recovery Month. Today, I am so excited that I have got the Choose Recovery team here. This is Derek and Britney, and they have a beautiful mission, a beautiful company, and their own personal stories on recovery that they're going to share with you today. So first of all, just thank you for reaching out. Thank you for saying yes and being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just start with you, Derek, if that's okay. I'd love to hear, some of your personal, your story. Like, what's your story? What happened that in your addiction that made things unmanageable, and how did you eventually, move into the strength and the hope?
Yeah. So my story is kind of unique in the sense that a lot of people that we work with today coming out of all different types of addiction, but primarily with substance abuse and those sorts of things. And my exposure was more to on the sexual side of stuff with addiction to pornography. And I was raised like in a good home and in a family that went to church and all of that. And I remember just growing up in an environment at this particular church and Christian school that I went to, that anytime anybody would get, caught with any sort of like indiscretion, I remember there were things that happened, with like affairs and different things like that, and other things in the church, and they would just be publicly kicked out of the church completely. There was another guy that had a pornography struggle that was just kicked out of the church, and it just taught everybody, if you got problems, you keep it to yourself. And even though we were going to a Christian school in high school and stuff, I got accepted kind of into the goody two-shoe crowd, looking back now at it. And my wife, Laura, back at that point, she was kind of in the passive aggressive, and God brought us together later. And it's just interesting how all that came about. But see, where was I going with that? But as I was in that environment, I had been exposed to pornography at a younger age and didn't really know how to handle it. And that's what I was going to mention a minute ago too, is that even though it was in a Christian school and everything, of course, there were still people who were dabbling in alcohol and drugs and all that stuff. And I was kind of naive to that scene at that point. But later on, even though I went off to ministry school to study the Bible, to do like ministry stuff, and then eventually got married, and then eventually started doing actual ministry, pastoral type stuff, thinking like, okay, those things will fix it, right? It's not that big a deal. But obviously, no, that doesn't just fix a destructive behavior, and actually just got worse in different seasons. And I wouldn't have classified it back then. I didn't really know what the heck it was and how to deal with it. But looking back now at it, it was a very addictive type thing that had a hold of my life, binging on it in the evenings and just hiding things. And my wife was like the only one that knew at the time, didn't know who to turn to. She was very gracious to be able to work through things, but I just felt like such a failure having to go back to her, and admit, another failure, another struggle. But just kind of a long story short, my journey out of that is not like anything that I would tell anybody else today to get recovery from any sort of an addiction, because it wasn't relative isolation, not knowing who to turn to, and leaning on my faith in Jesus and on on scripture. I remember just pouring through any sort of book that I could come up with, that I could find, or any sort of podcast or message and stuff of people who would talk about it from like the faith circles that I was in. And like nobody talks about this type of thing in church. And so when I found stuff, I was just kind of feasting on it. And God really showed me through all that, some lies that I was believing, insecurities believing about myself, and how that translated into how I viewed women. And just through correcting those lies and insecurities over time, found freedom to this day. And one of the sweet things too is when I look at like Jesus in the New Testament, he is one of the greatest like liberators who like empowered women, never in a way that threatened or abused them or anything like that, but at the same time like empowered them. And it's just really, really cool to see that. And so everything that I get to do today, along with my wife and our two boys, is amazing. Working at Freedom House, it's a faith-based sober transition home down here, and Britney and other friends of ours help with Freedom House and other churches that are here. I get to pastor one of those that we recently started a couple years ago, working with a recovery community. And Britney will share her story too, but it's just really cool to hear and see everybody who's been involved in the Choose Recovery brand so far. Has all been like volunteer basis, but they're all folks who've been invested either in their own stories of recovery or giving back through ministries like Freedom House and through being sponsors and through their own churches and stuff. So that's what I get to do today. We used to live out in Bethel, and just saw the massive needs across our state and areas of our villages, and then here on the road system, of course. So anyway,
Wow.
that's me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you. It takes so much courage to share such vulnerable information. And, so a lot of my interviews right now are definitely centered on drugs or alcohol, but pornography, sex addiction, those are all major, and they fall under the same kind of part of the brain and that same escape. And I think a lot of that comes down to what you said about, you were hiding it. And I think when we're at a point where we're hiding anything, then something's off internally for us. And so, I applaud you for seeing that and going like, this is not okay for me. What am I going to do next? And amazing to your wife. You use the word gracious. I think that's the perfect word. And for her to just, move through that whole process with you. So thank you for sharing that. And I think, so I had an eating disorder that kind of went along with my addiction to substances. And it was kind of always present. And again, that came back to, it was a secret. It was something I was hiding. It was something I didn't really know how to function without. And so there's so many different things that we can kind of pull into this recovery and addiction world. So thank you for talking about that. And I think there are a lot of people out there that are going to resonate with what you've gone through and what you're speaking to. So, and how fun that now you're helping people, and sounds like you are definitely a man of faith, and that's a big part of everything you're doing. And one of the things about these interviews is I'm interviewing people that are all across the board. There are people that are atheists that are in recovery, people that are religious. And, I'm so happy to be able to share different stories that are going to help different people at different parts in their journey, so there's no one way. And so I just really appreciate hearing this perspective. So Britney, over to you. I'd love to hear more about you.
Well, my story, I guess I'll just kind of dig in. So I guess from, at a very young age, my parents were alcoholics and dabbled in drugs and stuff. So there was a lot of, I have 3 other siblings. There was a lot of abandonment issues, mentally, emotionally, physically. They weren't there. So I was molested at 6 years old by a male cousin. And that lasted a couple years. And then I started getting molested by a female step aunt And that lasted for a couple years. And I never told anyone, and I kept it in, and I felt yucky and dirty, and just this little walking ball of shame. I didn't feel like I could tell anybody, so here I am. Now I'm 12, and I, you know, just looking for anything I could to fill that void, looking for daddy in all the wrong places, lost my virginity at 12 years old, raped at a party at 13 years old, just drinking, started drinking, smoking pot very young, got into, relationships with older guys, my mom forced me to get an abortion when I was 15 years old. Um, I was I had so much hate and so much resentment, not only towards my parents and my mother, but towards myself. I hated me. Um, and so I did whatever I could to drown out, whether that was meth, men, or money. Didn't matter what it was. Eating addictions. I was just all over the map. So, during that life, came multiple DWIs, driving while license revoked, reckless driving. I eventually found myself just dopeless, hopeless, and poor. I was that girl like in the ditch with a needle in my arm. I lost my children to OCS. I got to that point where I thought there was no coming back. I eventually found myself being trafficked in California, and God saved me in that situation. Somehow, some way, got back home. Went to treatment a couple times. First time didn't work out. Second time, it finally stuck. I hit my knees in that treatment center, and I gave my life and my heart to the Lord, and I was just not going back. I decided to go to long-term treatment in Anchorage at the Ernie Turner Center, and I did 6 months there. I ended up, starting the process to get my kids back. They had been in OCS custody for almost 2 years. And they were going to get adopted out, and somehow I got them back. I fought my way, and I came home, and I got a job and got stable, and I just never looked back. I guess today I get to I get to speak at all these different conferences regarding human trafficking. I get to be a part of the most wonderful organization. And it's called Pursuing the Hidden Heart, Authentic Relationships Incorporated, with Gene McConnell in Anchorage. And it's just this conference is about getting to the root of your shame. And so I get to go and speak and tell my story and help others get to the root of their shame, and find out where it started and be able to live in the light. And then I get to, be here with Derek and do Choose Recovery. And it's amazing. And I get to walk beside my children, through their struggles and their shame and stuff that happens with them. And I have 2 daughters that are 13 and 10. No matter what happens in their life, I'll be able to be like, hey, I've been through it, and I can help them. And I just know that every traumatic thing that's happened in my life, I'm supposed to use to help others, and I'm supposed to tell my story over and over and over. So that's what I do. I've spoke at multiple podcasts this month, or in August, and then recovery podcasts, and spoke at a couple different human trafficking events. So this August has been busy, but God just keeps saying, tell your story again. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I do. And here I am doing it again. So here I am. I'll have 6 years clean and sober in December. So
amazing. What day?
12/22.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. That's what I was going to ask. How long has it been? And yeah.
6 years almost.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're obviously a miracle.
Yeah.
I mean, that story is completely heartbreaking and scary and sad and hard to listen to. And
Sorry.
you know, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are going to hear that and go, that's me.
But
Or,
there's hope.
Yeah.
But there's hope. There's hope.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
absolutely. And, you know, and shame, oh, that's the worst emotion. And, you know, and that's what definitely kept me stuck in addiction for so long. It was like, there were all these feeling like a victim and all these other people and circumstances I wanted to blame, which, you know, some, like, as a child, you're not to blame for those kind of things. But then I would start creating brand new things to be ashamed of every day in addiction. So it's a hard cycle to break out of. And when we do, it's really beautiful. So thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
you've absolutely turned your pain into your purpose, and you are
Yes,
living it. And
100%.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So both of you are just on that journey of changing people's lives with your own story. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things anyone could do. Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
and I was just going to say,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, just real quick, to the human trafficking. And I know that's something that has come to light a lot more in these past couple months.
Right.
And, you know, I think that's so important because conspiracy theories aside, it's a problem and it's something you've experienced in your own life, and it's something that goes on in Alaska and everywhere. And so I think more light being brought to that, and you're probably going to have a lot more opportunities this year to share your story. And I'm glad that you're willing to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Derek, what were you thinking?
Oh, I was just thinking, it's cool working at Freedom House and all of there's a women's home and a men's home both, and all of the residents that we have come through the home and hearing their own stories, and yet the hope that's there.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, just being involved then in the recovery community through that, and then through starting Choose Recovery and things to spread more hope and awareness. You can't be down here and be involved in that and not hear about Britney and her story and her family, and just really cool to see her involvement in women's lives and mentoring them and sponsoring them and helping us at Freedom House, and then helping with the Choose Recovery brand as well. It's just really cool. So I love it.
Wow. And so you guys haven't mentioned where you live.
Yeah, Soldotna area. That's where I
Yeah.
live, Soldotna.
Okay.
I live in Nikiski, so I live out on the North Road, like north of Kenai, a little ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the few people listening that live in Soldotna, or maybe just are in Alaska, we'll put some links with information about Freedom House and some of the local things you do. But I would love for today to talk about Choose Recovery. I see you're both sporting t-shirts of your brand. I watched your video the other day and I just loved it. I think what you're doing is really beautiful. So could you talk a little bit more about this mission with the brand and how we can support you?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. So, somewhere along the line, there's a lot of different influences that kind of led to it, but wanted to do something different to make an impact as well for addiction recovery, along the lines of, ending the stigma and spreading hope and like recovering as loud as we can and providing a vehicle for all the folks that we minister with at the homes and things and in our own community. And then just seeing, as my eyes were more open to all of our friends who were having their own stories, like Britney's and others, and then traveling outside the state and realizing like, dang, like this is everywhere, obviously, but saying, okay, how could we do something to spread hope, that there is hope, to never give up, to make a difference. I saw Rewrite Your Story on your website, and that's one of the things we say too, rewrite the story. And then the other thing too with it is not just for those stuck in an addiction that's still out there, but my other purpose and heart behind it is to help all of the folks who may not have addiction per se in their story, but they have loved ones and friends and stuff that are, and they just have no clue how to help, and just be a vehicle for hope and spreading awareness to bring the conversation. Like it is not, we don't have to be cynical and jaded towards people who struggle with addiction. All of us can play a part. Another one of our shirt designs says, we're stronger, or together we are
Stronger
stronger than our addiction.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's just that beautiful picture of like the whole community coming together. The faith community, ministries, treatment centers, hospitals, detoxes, meetings, all of them playing a part in this beautiful picture. And so Choose Recovery, just an opportunity to do that and to empower people and proclaim the hope. And we found that hope in our faith in Jesus, and to share that as we go along. So.
Okay, awesome. And so you have apparel, and then so how, I understand your mission. So as far as like our part in it, so we buy these clothes, you give us resources, or part of the proceeds go to help people in recovery. What's the
Yeah.
practical part there?
Yeah. So you hit both of them. I'll do the second one first, but as far as like the helping fund things, I'd love to do more in the future. Right now we do 10% of profits back to Freedom House that's here locally. And I'd love to expand that down the road as the company grows to help other recovery efforts. So that's one vehicle that we do. And then the resources is something that I've done a little bit in, but I want to build the site out more to have more practical resources down the road for people. And then the awareness and the hope piece is just to encourage people who are struggling in their addiction, walking through recovery, to inspire their own continual growth and to share their own story of hope with others. And then for other people to rep that. We've had customers literally write me and say like, hey, I wear this shirt or this hoodie like every day to keep me going in my own recovery. We've had family members rep it for like a daughter who's in recovery, and so they're repping it.
Well, I've had people stop me at Walmart, and say, hey, where'd you get that shirt? Like, my daughter's struggling in her addiction. And you know what I mean? It brings up that topic. And then people, you get a chance to say, hey, you know what? Yeah. Like I have almost 6 years, and you know what I mean? This helps me, or, it gives you a chance to tell your story and give someone hope in the grocery store, and then maybe they want to get a shirt for their daughter, or for,
Yeah, I like that example.
Helps the conversation start. It's a conversation starter too, for
Totally.
people who don't know how to talk about it.
Right. It's like a bumper sticker. You're like, well,
Yeah.
I know I should be friends with you or not.
Yeah. Well, something that's like, shoved down so deep and never talked about. And, I think it helps people.
Yeah.
I agree. And I really like that. And so many of us, when we're in our addiction, feel so alone, and we feel crazy, and we feel like, I must be the only person who can't hang, or why can't I handle this? Everyone else seems fine. And, so just that, again, that awareness. And I really like that you touched on wanting to serve and help family members.
Yeah.
That's probably the number one thing that I have people reach out to me about. It's not people that are struggling.
Yeah.
It's the people that care about them, that feel completely helpless, and they're going, what do I do? How can I fix them? How can I help? And I'm like, whew, and it's a tough conversation to have, because it's just such a hard journey, but there is hope. There are a lot of resources, and and let's share resources with each other as you're building out this part, because I'm gathering a lot this month, and I'm really excited about that. And so I'll be sure to share those with you as well, because you're going to have people that are, and I'm sure what you want too is people from all over the nation, all over the world are going to be finding your brand. And so to make sure that there are things that people anywhere can reach to, can be a part of learning and growing. So
our big project that we're trying to finish right now that I'm working on is I have a Kickstarter campaign trying to get funding together for kind of taking things above the next level from a t-shirt, but designed this women's fashion boot, and Brittany's got a pair on here. But I'll show them to you real quick.
See your boots.
See if we can spin it around here.
So these are the.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, those are fun. Okay, for those of you listening on the podcast, there are links to pictures of all of this.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So fun.
Yeah,
they are.
they come in a couple different colors and stuff like that too. But
Black and brown and
yeah.
all different laces, whatever color laces you want. They're nice.
So that's our
good timing. Us
Yeah.
girls need our boots for the fall, right?
Woohoo! That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
we'll see how that goes, but the links and stuff, we can share that, but trying to get that funded by the 17th of September and get those starting shipments after that, hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm happy to share, all of the information. I think what you're doing is really important, and I can tell you're both really passionate about helping people over anything else, and that's really great. And it sounds like both of you, the big parts of your lives are dedicated to this work and sharing recovery and really facilitating that for other people. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being an inspiration and really working towards getting that stigma out of here so people can step up and get the help they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any final thoughts, any final tips for people that are struggling out there right now?
I would just say that there's hope, to not give up and to pray. And there's just always hope. There's help out there. And
Yeah.
Don't give up. Do not give up.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
I would
you.
reiterate that. It's just so sweet to see people find freedom, find hope, see God set people free.
Yeah.
God just continues to blow my mind away with what he's able to do, and just seeing, some of I truly mean this, like some of the people I look up to as heroes are those in the recovery community that are just doing an amazing job. And some of our single gals too that are in the recovery community, getting their kids back, and you walk that journey, and others, and it's just so cool. So whoever's out there listening to this, just like Britney said, never give up. Keep moving forward, keep reaching out. And if you're a family member or a friend, don't give up on somebody. Be patient, just hold out there, be patient. And when they're ready for change, then we'll move mountains to get them help and get them connected at that moment when they're ready. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you. And I can't wait to share your work with the world. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.